You are listening to Financially Unhinged with CC, the financial diva, and BJ, the minister of finance, on the Lounge Soul Cafe.
It's a whole lot of money in this smoke.
The views and opinions expressed on the Financially Unhinged podcast do not necessarily reflect the opinions of TLSC Radio. The Financially Unhinged podcast do not intend to provide legal, tax, or investment advice. All topics are for educational and entertainment purposes, and all commentary is alleged.
Hey, welcome to another edition of the Financially Unhinged show. I am BJ, the Minister of Finance.
I am CC, the financial diva.
And we are excited about tonight's episode entitled Fed Now, Now What? All right, y'all get that? Fed Now, this new system. Now that this new system has been announced, this Fed Now digital currency, essentially, now what are we going to do? So we have an amazing show planned for this evening. And before we go into, or I should say, take a deeper dive, we have to take care of those good housekeeping tasks. And of course, first and foremost, we encourage everyone that's listening to, if they would, to follow us on those good social media platforms on Instagram and Facebook at Financially Unhinged and Twitter at Fin Unhinged. You can also send us an email at info@financiallyunhinged should your spirit also lead you to do so. So, of course, we've made this announcement before that TLSC radio streams live. So with this amazing feature, you can listen to the Financially Unhinged show on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, and YouTube. So for your listening pleasures, you can listen to us across whichever social media platform that you prefer out in these good old social media streets. All right. So the reason why this is such an amazing episode, because we're talking about some of the new stuff that's happening with our money. And you guys know I love talking about money and things of that nature. So, but before we go into that, CC, you mentioned something that was really interesting prior, and I thought that would be
I did
something worthwhile. Yes, you did. Come on, bless us.
What did I miss? What did I mention? I don't remember.
So we were
Refresh my memory.
having a conversation during pre-production where we were discussing some of the things that are going on with, what's the brother's? He wasn't a brother, but what's the gentleman's name that he was killed? That was the head of one of those.
Oh, the founder of Cash App.
Right, the founder of Cash App. So we were discussing that and the coincidence of this gentleman's untimely death and demise with the issuance of this good old Fed Now currency. And then Cece had referenced that she noticed there was a difference or a change in her managed account because she's fancy. So she has an actual, I would say, an account that is managed on her behalf where she doesn't have to do much of that. So you do have that option. And it's actually an amazing account to have if you've not looked into it, managed account. So you can invest a small amount and you can have the big dogs, those with the expertise that specialize in making sure that your money makes sense and it makes more money for a small fee. They can manage your stuff. So what were you saying, CC, about your?
No, I pulled up my account the other day and I do try to check it. And this is one of my smaller accounts because it was my first time really doing a managed account outside of like a 401k or something like that. So I was just kind of testing it out. And
Now, is this, when you say managed account, is this a managed for retirement account or is this
no, it's
an individual
a
brokerage account?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a brokerage account. Actually, So I was looking at it the other day, and typically they invest a little bit more in cryptocurrency. I do see it as still part of my portfolio, but it looks like in terms of actually using new dollars because I add to it every other week. Just a
Okay.
little bit now, just a little bit. Um I
A little
noticed.
bit adds up to a lot.
Yes. So usually the transfer comes out on Monday. So when I checked it today, I noticed that they didn't invest in cryptocurrency. It's still part of my
Okay.
portfolio because obviously
Right.
I've invested in it, but the and I don't know how long they've been doing that.
So did you see a change in your other holdings? Did they reallocate the amount of money that would traditionally be invested
Usually,
in the crypto? Did they allocate it to another investment
so what they do is they kind of rebalance, for
or
lack of a
portfolio?
better word, or reallocate, or is it rebalance or reallocate?
Well,
I'm not sure.
I mean, I believe it's the same sentiments. We're going to rebalance. We're going to redirect. We're going to
Right.
rearrange, like
So
we do the furniture.
essentially, right. So essentially what they do is every so often, they check the accounts, check what's being invested in. And if something is underperforming, they may decide to make some changes.
Hmm.
Hence, that's why it's managed. And so the last time, I want to say it's been a few months when I got an email saying, hey, they rebalanced some things. So I could
Hmm.
have potentially missed the emails. I've been getting a lot of emails lately. But I don't remember seeing one. I have to go back and look.
Okay.
Usually I'm a little bit more on top of it, but I've been a little busy these last few months. So,
Well, isn't that the reason why you have a managed account? So when you are busy over the months, you actually have
mhm,
a team of professionals that are actually managing your account. So the assumption is if they are no longer investing in cryptocurrency, there has to be a logical explanation
right,
as to why they rebalance,
right,
reallocated.
reallocated. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna look into it. And just kind of see. I like to make sure, me personally, I like to make sure that I'm on top of it. Even though it's managed, sometimes you still gotta watch what they're doing. We
Mhm.
can't, completely just be hands off.
No, I agree. I mean, I agree.
Mhm. Yeah.
100%. All right, that's cool. I know something we were talking about earlier, which was I don't know if everyone knows that Byron Allen was doing a little bit of research on that good brother.
R-
Of you know who
Right.
he is, right?
I do. I do. And I know we were talking about, I don't know what's going on today. Don Lemon got fired from CNN,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't watch Fox News. Fox News, right? I don't watch Fox News, but Tucker Tucker Carlson, is that his name?
I think so.
I think he was let go today, and I'm going, what's going on?
Right. And
I
so
saw it
that's
on
how that came
Twitter.
about. And we were like, well, maybe Byron, I mean, not Byron Allen, but Don Lemon is going to go on over to Byron Allen's network because he has quite a few different media companies and entertainment studios. And he owns the Griot.
And that I did not, actually, I didn't know that he
Mm-hmm.
owned the Griot. And I was actually watching that earlier because I was watching Ebony K. Williams. I
Mm,
really like her. And
okay.
and on the Griot, she's so buttoned up, suit
Mm-hmm.
jacket, and she's talking like this. But when you go on her podcast,
Okay. It's a different personality.
oh, it's so different. You
Gotcha.
know, she's telling it like it is, and I like her.
Okay. All right.
But Don Lemon act like he was surprised that he was getting ready to get let go from CNN. I think a blind man could see he was
Mm.
going down a slippery slope.
I guess the
I mean,
slope
I don't
came
know
from.
with the antics, and
Mm,
them people don't like that. So
You say so. What does that mean? Them people,
I said what I said.
them people,
I
they.
said what I said.
Who is
Them,
them? They.
they.
They don't like. Okay.
You can't cause too much ruckus now.
Uh,
So
Right, right. So with that being said, it made us go into the conversation a little bit about Byron Allen's accomplishments. So I was pleasantly surprised, of course, in I believe 1993, he created Entertainment Studios. And I believe a lot of people remember that from back in the day. And in Entertainment Studios, what is this? In 2016, they purchased the Griot. And then in
Hmm.
2018, Byron Allen acquired the number one weather news television network, the Weather Channel. So that was huge. So he's doing some big things in broadcasting and television, seemingly quietly, unbeknownst to a lot of individuals. So, big up. So maybe perhaps Don Lemon can.
Is that where you like to see Don Lemon go?
I mean, I do like the idea of for they, there's certain things you can't say to them and them being they. So then why not we kind of, work with us and that way
Hmm.
we have a little bit more, understanding and
Hmm.
things of that nature. You like how that flow? I like that. They and them and we and us.
Well, I mean, it's funny because, I always see um talks about Black media and
Mm-hmm.
supporting Black media and making Black media just as important as other media outlets. And sometimes we just got to be with our own people.
Mm-hmm. It's just it's easier
You're
in
right.
some regard.
We have to support each other. And, sometimes maybe we need to start looking at some of these other platforms, like not feeling like we're validated if we're part of these other
Mm-hmm.
platforms and getting the validation if you need that from us,
Right, from the progress
which
that's
is
being made. I think that it's something to your point. There's something extremely valuable about working together in partnership. You know, I believe there's a saying: if you want to go quickly, go by yourself. But if you want to go far, you go together. And I don't know exactly where that proverb or that term comes from, but I use that reference to as a metaphor about working together as a team, as a group. And I think when we do that, there's so many benefits from that. We can leverage each other's talents, gifts, and abilities, our strengths and weaknesses. We can really come together and do a lot of creative things with partnering. So I think there's
hmm.
a lot of a lot of benefit from that. So I don't want to get on my soapbox. So I get excited about partnering and working together and things of that nature.
Yes, of course you do. But whatever's coming, I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
it'll be great. Sometimes God closes one door and another one is opening down the
You better
hall.
come in a Honda and leave in a Chevrolet. Mm, come in a Honda. Yes. That's not
Is
the
that
right one
speaking
for.
in tongues? What are you
Uh huh.
doing?
Yeah, that was my imitation. Coming a Honda. When you was younger, coming a Honda, leaving a Chevrolet. You say it real fast.
No, I did not know that.
Okay, then there was
Well,
there's
I
one woman
grew.
when I was at church. I promise you, I thought the woman was saying Robitussin because her tongue sounded like Robitussin. It was like that ro. So it was
Um,
yeah.
I grew up in a missionary Baptist church.
Well, I'm sorry. You should have had some experiences in
I
other
didn't
churches.
get that speaking in tongue experience until I went Kojic.
Well, I'm sorry it took you so long.
I mean, that was
Wait
in
so
my
long.
20s.
So when you were in the Baptist church, you were just focused on your salvation. Take me to the water. Take me to the water.
I
Right.
mean,
Because the Baptist going to preach you into salvation. I baptize you. What is it? In the great head of the church. In the name. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
Where were you at in the service for all this? This is
I was
traditional stuff.
singing. I
Oh
sang in
Lord.
the choir, and then when I would go downstairs
Well, we gonna need.
or to the candy store, over to the store during the sermon, and then as long as we was back by the time the sermon was over, so we could sing.
So that sounds like you were not there when the word was going forward. Because
Not when I
is that
was
what I'm hearing?
younger. Not when I was younger.
Okay,
No.
but you just said that. So, like, you know,
Well,
we
we
went
need a
back in
break.
time the same.
We was, you know,
And right when the
doing
preacher is preaching is when,
devotion.
and so you missed a lot of stuff. You missed a lot of the hooping and the hollering because you were at the store. So that was on you. And so we may need prayer. And on this next segment, we're going to explain a little bit about this new service, this new system called Fed Now, how it affects us,
Mm.
things of that nature, and unpack some of CC's, what are we going to call those, conspiracy theories and things of that nature.
I only
And
have
also
one
to be
conspiracy
mindful, you
theory.
know, this is Mercury retrograde. For those who are into astrology, be mindful of our communication and things of that nature. But we are going to
And
take a quick commercial break and we will be back shortly.
You're tuned into Wealth and Wellness Wednesday on TLSC Radio.
Can't get enough of CC, the financial diva, or PJ, the minister of finance? Go to tlscradio.com and check out their fan page where you can see all of their previous episodes. All of this on TLSC Radio. We play the jams.
Turn on and turn up to the sounds of Time Out Tuesdays. Every Tuesday at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, streaming live on TLSCradio.com, mobile and web, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram.
welcome back to the Financially Unhinged show where we are making your money make sense. I'm CC, the financial diva.
And I am BJ, the Minister of Finance, and we are going to attempt to make Fed Now make sense. But what's interesting is that before we go into what Fed Now is, how it affects us, what it's similar to, and make it make sense, this reminds me, this change with the Fed Now system reminds me of a previous change called Check 21. And when I say it reminds me of something that affects the general consumer, the average everyday person, because back in the day, way back when, remember, we would write checks and the check, or I should say the bank would send the actual physical check to the other bank, and the processing was so long. It could be 7 to 14 days.
And people
Or-
was using that time
Exactly.
writing checks
Because you know
and
it was
money
going to
wasn't in the
take
bank.
exactly, because you knew it was like, oh well, it's going to take at least 5 to 7 days for that check to clear. But what year was that? 2003. They came out with Check
Right.
21, and then that extremely eliminated, or I should say, expedited the process. So
Right.
you could, I believe, well, you would know more.
Well, yeah, because I actually remember when that actually passed and it came out because that changed banking tremendously. I mean, I had family and
Mhm.
friends calling me like, what is going on? Because them checks was clearing
Mm.
faster, not like they are today. But basically, I remember, so what Check 21 did was allow the banks to scan the checks and send the scanned copy of the check bank to bank electronically instead
Mhm.
of physically sending the checks
Right.
to banks so that it could be processed and cleared. And that's why it would take 7 to 14 days back then.
Mhm.
So when they started allowing checks to be processed through scanning and electronically sending them, you know, people was overdrafting their accounts. And then you didn't know, you know, they were trying to time it. So, you know, if
Mhm.
the rent was due on the
Right, you
first,
gonna send in that check.
you know, they'll send in that check,
You know
honey.
that money was not going to hit that account until like the third or fourth. So you hoping
Mm-mm.
that by the time that the person deposits the check, there's still a few additional days. So with that in mind, that brings us to where we are now with Fed Now,
Mm-hmm.
because essentially this Fed Now program is going to overhaul, or it should speed up the way in which money is transferred. And so the easiest thing that I think about is, you know, you think about like, what is that? Venmo, Zelle, Cash App, some of those.
PayPal, but I feel like
Right.
they late.
Well, they are late with the exception.
You're listening to the Lounge Soul Cafe on TLSC
and
Radio.
administered by the government.
I
So,
understand that, but don't you look how long we've been dealing with PayPal?
yeah.
I just take PayPal,
Mhm.
right? I don't even know when PayPal came out. Do you?
That's what we can just do a quick
Okay,
Google
do
search
a
of that.
quick Google search. Let me make my point.
Mm-hmm.
So
Let the Lord
PayPal
use you.
came out. I don't know what order some of these other things came out. Cash App, Venmo. What else did you say? Google Pay.
December 1998 for PayPal.
98. Really? PayPal came out in 98?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I wasn't using
It was
PayPal in
founded in
98.
December of 1998. The
But
company
when
is
did it really
called-
get popular and people really started using PayPal?
that's questionable. That can be debated.
Oh, right, because just because I wasn't using it.
Right, because that's
I was
that's
leery of little
relative.
stuff, but
A lot of folk were weird. I remember people being leery about
direct deposit.
debit cards and all of these things.
Yes.
So I think the reason why we're having this conversation is we don't want to be left behind and not understand how to utilize these new programs and how these programs impact us on an everyday basis.
Well, first let's talk about exactly what Fed Now is for those who haven't heard.
Okay. Essentially, according to Forbes, and we're going to quote Forbes magazine, Forbes Advisor, it says FedNow is the first government created system for financial institutions to send and receive funds almost instantaneously. Ideally, FedNow will ensure you no longer have to wait a few business days or bide your time over holidays or weekends to receive your money. This means you can make payments, i.e., your mortgage, for example, ideally within seconds. You could opt to send funds on the due date rather than having to plan several days out for an online payment to clear or up to a week or for a check to be processed. So, this is essentially what it is and how it works. According to Forbes, it says FedNow acts as the clearing service for financial institutions. So what I interpret that as being that it's going to essentially act as the clearinghouse between the various banks. So
Intermediary.
exactly. So it is the clearing service for financial institutions, transactions, so they can provide immediate end-to-end payments to customers. The key difference between this service and the Fed's current system is that FedNow will be online 24/7 processing transactions in real time. The FedNow service is open to more than 10,000 financial institutions that operate within the Fed's network. Private money transfer apps like Venmo, keyword private money transfer apps like Venmo and Cash App are not part of that system. That's one reason it takes a few days for you to transfer money from these apps to your bank account. The bank has to clear the funds.
Okay, so let's talk about that because I think people don't understand that, right? Even though, let's say I send you a Zelle right now, BJ, you will get a notification that I sent you a Zelle, but if you notice, it's pending. And sometimes that Zelle or Google Pay may take, even though it's in your account and it's available for use, right? Because the idea is they're trusting that when you transferred or you initiated that Zelle, the money was there in your account. So they're feeling safe that they're letting that money become immediately available to you, but that bank does not actually have the money. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So, and it because when Fed Now first came out, I was going, well, what is the difference? Like, I don't understand. But then as I read a little bit more into it, and it was that instantaneous transfer into your account, meaning that they will have that money right then and there. Then I understood the difference, like you said, Zelle, Google Pay, all of that, Cash App, those are app to app services. And Zelle, you're dependent on whether your bank opts in to use Zelle. Because I remember I used to get frustrated. I'm like, you don't got Zelle?
Right. And so that's the key thing. So when you think about this system Fed now being between bank to bank, so it's going to operate much like what you just described. So it depends on your financial institution if they offer Fed now, if they participate in that, that will enable us when it's released to the consumer. So right now it's not even released to the consumer.
Right.
It comes active in July of this year, June, July, sometime around there, and then the actual banks have the option to opt in. So of course they tell us the ease of transfer is one thing. Now, the other thing I'm curious to know, because if this will allow companies to make this transfer using Fed now, and we're paying our mortgage or we're making payments, will this, I would say, decrease the time it would take for when we make a transaction and we need a refund? Because that's what I was immediately thinking about. So would Fed
Right.
now reduce the time? Because you know how instantaneously
It comes out.
about my account.
Right.
So there's no delay in you taking the money out my account to
Right.
purchase or to make a purchase. But it surely is funny. And it depends on which region you go to, people, where it may take 3 to 5 days for a refund to hit your account. It may take 7 to 10 days, depending on 7 to 10 business. What are y'all doing? Mailing the check? Y'all recreating, Check 21 was a whole act.
You better
What
preach.
are y'all doing?
Tell me why I can't get my credit.
Exactly. So when I send you my money and it goes instantaneously, I'm gonna need y'all with this new Fed Now system to run me back my coins when there's a refund that's due, and I don't need to wait 3 to 5 days for those funds to transfer. So hopefully, this Fed Now system will help ease that transfer and expedite the process. Some of the concerns that people have voiced that I have heard, I should say, is the government's oversight. Are they really tracking everything that we're doing? What happens if we're using this digital currency? And it makes me think, like, is it really a digital currency? Because the Fed now seems to operate as an intermediary. It's a government,
Right.
it's a service, but it's not. I mean, it's a digital transaction, but I don't know if this is operating like it's a Bitcoin or anything of that nature. So
It doesn't sound like it, but I don't know. I guess I'm too, and you've called me sometimes a conspiracy theorist,
mhm.
and I don't know if I agree with that, but I'm just saying sometimes I like to bring things out front and give you something a little bit more to think about, right?
Some practical uses, some other analytical ways of processing it.
So remember when, what is it, the Biden administration put into place about the $600 with Zelle, and that is reportable, and banks had to start reporting that. Well, then there was a hold on that. Now with the Fed Now, I'm curious if they are somehow going to use that to keep track of the $600 or more. I'm just curious.
That's a possibility.
I'm just asking a question.
And some people have even said that. I mean, I think this is a good conversation because when you think about things, from the macro standpoint, that's a great point that you referenced, that $600 reporting guideline or threshold that they were trying to push. And now this Fed Now is happening to transact, to keep track of our transactions. And there may be a situation in the future where there may not be a need for tax preparers, because the government is going to prepare your tax return because they automatically know, hey, this is what your transactions were. This is how much you owe. We're going to send you an invoice. You need to pay this X, Y, and Z. So there's,
Did you see my face?
Extreme.
Cause how they gonna take our deductions and our write-offs and stuff if we not
Look, we
preparing
already
taxes,
received a
honey?
standard deduction, so maybe there's an automatic opt-in. So if
Uh,
you a regular W-2
what
employee, it may
about
be,
business people?
I
Okay,
don't
so
know.
you talking about regular W-2 employees, but
Right. There could be a possibility. So I don't know, but that's me thinking far, far extreme,
mhm.
and that's some of the commentary about it could be overreaching. So we don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think it's overreaching? Do you think it is just an ease of transfer of funds to make things more accessible? Or is it something where the government is going to be really now looking at our spending patterns and how we transact to be able to identify, and control our monetary system? Which,
Well, yeah, like BJ said, drop us a line, tell us what you think. I do want to bring this up because it it talks about the particular article that I was reading
mhm,
talked about how, to your point, ease of transfer is account to account transfer is instantaneous.
mhm,
And they're saying that it's supposed to help people who are on tight budgets, who also are susceptible to
mhm,
late fees
mhm,
and late payments by making this instant. So I guess if your rent is due on the first and you have a 3-day window, because I'm trying to talk this out. So let's say, because most um I would say apartments or rental
mhm,
managers, there is some type of either 3-day, you have until the third or the fifth to pay your rent
mhm.
with no fee, no late fee, right?
Right.
So, and some people, if they get paid once a month or every other week, that date sometimes doesn't align right? Which is one thing we
Mhm,
talk about, making a budget so you can make sure you have your rent when you're supposed to. I
mhm.
don't like late fees. Um, I'm just trying to figure out how does that make it how are you avoiding late fees, I guess, because I can go online and pay it on the third. So like my
That's what I was
my
looking.
place, right? As long as I go online and initiate or make the transaction, it's
Mhm.
done. I'm not gonna get assessed a late fee. So I was a little confused on that. Like,
So that's a good point. I've not identified exactly how, with the exception of if you have to pay your rent or
mhm,
your mortgage on January 20th and you just received the funds at 10 o'clock and you have until, midnight before you are assessed a late fee. And then you go and you submit that payment at 11:55, it's going to be instantaneously accredited to your account. So you don't have to wait for that several days of processing. So that's one way. Like if you're
yeah, but
up against a wall, but key point
that's
that we're
not
missing, you still need to have your money in the first
right.
place. So
Like
even if you sent it with Zelle or you sent it with to process a payment, you have to have the funds in
the
your
funds
account.
have to be
So,
there. So even if I initiate it on my mortgage app or
mhm,
my apartment's website, I'm still initiating it on that day.
right.
They don't
However,
say they have to, or we have. Now, are they going to change their policy? We have to have the funds. Now with Fed, now we have, it's no longer going to process in, because sometimes it could
it's real
take th-
a
two to
couple
three
days.
days,
You
a
think
couple
about the
days before it
weekend.
actually comes out of your
Right.
account.
So if you initiate the payment on a Friday, there's Saturday and Sunday that those funds, if they are in your account, are not going to come out and they're going to be processed on
Right.
their next business day. In
But you're
contrast
still
with
not going to
Fed
get a late
now,
fee.
well, you're not going to be receive a late fee because the system is acknowledging you initiated.
Right.
You initiated the payment
Right.
and the funds are not going to settle or clear until a few days. And we're using the example of the weekend. It's not
Hmm.
going to clear until that Monday. That's what happens in the banking transfers now.
Right. Right.
Sometimes, you go shopping on the weekend. That's hey. So
Baby,
on the flip
Monday.
end,
Woo.
it's gonna hit your account. Then you're gonna figure out what's what. That's that turned up Sunday. Um, So then in retrospect, with Fed now, it's saying that it eliminates all of that. So if you
Maybe
initiate
I
it,
just have to see. But quick
that's the way that I'm
story.
looking
I
at it.
was talking to a friend of mine, and she told me that she was looking for a new rental place. She needed to move,
Mm-hmm.
and she told me she was denied a place.
Mm.
And she was denied a place because when they went into did rental history, she had too many late payments. Not
Okay.
payments if it's due by the 3rd or the 5th, but like
Mhm.
after that. And
Okay.
then so my place charges $200 if you're late. I'm not paying.
Oh wow.
No, I don't even I've never even accidentally made
You say never
no.
accidentally.
I'm not giving someone $200, but I think she was like, well, I was like, why are your payments late? I'm the wrong one to talk to about this. I'm like, why are your payments late? She was like, I mean, if I don't get paid to the 7th, I'll just pay it on the 7th and I'll just pay the little $100. What?
Interesting.
I was about to fall out and have a heart attack. I was like, what
Wow.
are you saying? Like, why? Do you know what I can do with $100?
So if I'm understanding what I heard correctly was that this individual has late payments on her credit.
On her
And
rental history, not her credit.
on her rental credit. Okay, so on her rental history,
So
late
when the
payments.
new place went, you know how they do the background and then they
Mm-hmm.
call your current
The
place
verification.
verification. So they did
Mm-hmm.
verification with her current place and they sent over her rental history. And when they looked at it, they were like, well, we have to deny you. You have too many late payments. And to her, she was like, well, what difference does it make? I paid the rent. Like, who cares if it was on the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 10th? I paid it. And I paid the late fee. And I'm going, that's not the right
That's not
mentality
how this
to
works.
have. That's not how this. That's not how any of this works.
But that's funny that you said that because I know some people in my family too that feel that way. It don't matter. I get the payment, but it's like, okay, so let me get this understood. So if I owe the mortgage company and I have a grace period, perhaps until maybe a 8-day grace period, a 10-day grace period with the mortgage company. So now I have to give you as a tenant a 5-day grace period. If you don't pay me until whenever you feel like paying me, then that means my mortgage payment is going to be late if I have a mortgage on this rental property. And
Right.
it's a whole domino effect.
Right.
So you got denied the apartment because you pay your rent whenever you feel like it, when you don't necessarily have to, because if you use the budget and blueprint, you would be right on point.
Good
However,
point.
but then you can't look at someone else because they choose to live and abide by that. So no, that's a good point.
No, but I didn't even think about that, what you said, the fact that they're looking at it like, okay, if you're consistently late, right, then what is that going to do to me? I can't risk, like, because she was like, how does that make me a risky tenant?
That's how your credit.
And I was trying to explain to her why. Like, I wasn't calling, I'm not calling you risky, but I'm just saying, like, they are looking at you like you're a risk because yeah, you've paid it in the past, but what if you don't? What if it's that one time or that 2 times you don't, and now we have to spend all this money to evict you?
And because if you have that mentality, then there's going to be certain holidays that we are prone to have that mentality too. So there's going to be Christmas, there's going to be Easter, where your payments are going to be late. The 4th of July may be late. Any major holidays,
you want to turn up.
Exactly. Your birthday is going to be late because you're turning up that week, during that period. So,
but to me, it's the wastefulness of it. The wasting.
Oh, you're talking about that additional $100.
The additional $100. Like, why? That's a bill. That's something towards debt elimination. That's
imagine if
investing.
You put
that's in your savings.
That's $1,200.
What if you put that $100 in your savings account? Like that. That just doesn't make sense. So people, we got to work on our mentality about money. So
our relationship, and I think we have to separate because the person from the behavior. I know that sounds weird, but like our financial behaviors may not be indicative of who we are totality, in our totality as a person, but this is a behavior. So, lack of using a budget will have you in situations where your rent isn't approved or you can't get that apartment that you really want because of
You're
not
listening to the
having
Lounge
vision
Soul Cafe
and
on
purpose
TLSC
for our
Radio.
bills. So that's a pretty good point, CC. I think that leads us to, with all this stuff that's happening with digital currency and the Fed now system and the changes that's happening now. If everything is being digitized, we're gonna talk about a little financial infidelity after this commercial break, because now, I think we need to talk about how that's going to change. And this Fed now not just affects the banks and processing payments, but then how it affects, this financial infidelity and some of the things that we do with our monies. And the ways that we need to look to rearrange that.
They are slowly but surely eliminating cash. So some of y'all gonna be in trouble who need to use cash to pay for y'all other lifestyle.
All right. Well, when the guy comes back, we're gonna take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back.
This is CC, the Financial Diva.
And I am BJ, the Minister of Finance, and we are the hosts of the Financially Unhinged podcast,
where we discuss all things money and help make your money make sense. So tune into our show
and listen for a unique perspective on topics that can help you with budgeting, investing, and money management.
You're listening to the Lounge Soul Cafe on TLSC Radio.
Tune into the Morning Inspiration Show every day, starting at 6 a.m. Central Standard Time, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on TLSCradio.com, mobile and web. Listen to the sounds of the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Every Saturday, starting at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time and 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on TLSCradio.com, mobile and web.
All right, welcome back, guys. Ladies and gents, this is BJ, the Minister of Finance.
I am CC, the Financial Diva.
And on this last segment, we are going to talk about something that is a bit controversial, but it is also relevant. And with the conversation about Fed now and digitizing and the potential of where this digital currency can go, and I'm not saying within a few years or things of that nature, but down the road, it sounds like it's really going to make it not impossible, but with this tracking of our finances and what's going on, for those that lean towards the financial infidelity, that may pose some challenges and some things of that nature. So that's something that came to mind. That's I'm not going to call it important, but I thought about it. So if you have a side piece, or you got a situationship, or
I like situationship. Don't say
right,
side
situationship.
piece.
I mean, I'm not going to say entanglement. So you got a situationship and you want to do things with your situationship. I mean, you want to go out to, and you're married or you in a committed relationship. How do you do those things? Do you disclose? Do you conceal your transactions? Do you only do things
Well,
on
of course
certain
you're going to
cards?
conceal your transactions. That's the whole point.
So what happens in the future when, we are at a point
With
where
the cashless
we're not
society.
using a cashless society, where it's going to be a little bit more complex? Because if you're sending your situationship some money, how do you send it to them? And we are in a cashless society. Are you going to Zelle them? Then if you have to give an audit
Some
of your
people
expense,
send Zelle.
oh, hey,
Sometimes they have a whole another account that the spouse or significant other doesn't know about, or they could know about it. Because remember, I'm an advocate of having a joint account and individual accounts. So you can not have your statement coming to the house, or maybe they don't open your mail. Maybe that's how you get busted, because they open your mail.
No, you just gonna go on to hell, because that's the devil. Because you know what that sounds like to me?
What?
That sounds like marriage laundering. You know how there's money laundering where you launder money, you know what I'm saying, to go around paying to avoid giving the government what they are just and due. People do that with marriage laundering. You're sitting over here, you're moving funds around, you switch from the account. That is financial infidelity. Hashtag
It's
marriage
financial
laundering.
infidelity, is marriage laundering, and marriage structuring.
Is marriage structuring. So
You know
we're
how you
using all these
structure
terms.
your deposits. See, that's a
Right.
banking term. You structure your deposits, so they're structuring their money in different accounts.
Like you can use structuring as a tax strategy. You can use structuring
Yes.
as a financial strategy. So some people use marriage structuring to basically to have to commit marriage laundering, which is not a great thing. Where you are trying to move funds around and conceal them in such a way that someone of importance doesn't know for the sake of a situationship. Can a church say amen to that? For a situationship. Okay, CC. So as we're talking about this marriage laundering, are there
Yes.
some signs, because we have some empirical data and some evidence that supports this theory that I've developed and coined, which
Mhm.
is marriage laundering? And what are some of those signs that's going to make it
Okay,
difficult?
first of all, now we did speak briefly about financial infidelity in season 1, right? So, and then we also talked about this cashless society. I think season 3, was that last year? Yeah.
Just follow us.
So
Just follow us.
yes, just follow us. But first, let's talk about the definition of financial infidelity.
Mhm.
So, financial infidelity happens when you or your spouse intentionally lie about money, when you deliberately choose not to tell the truth about your spending habits, no matter how big or small. That is financial infidelity. Now, there's a difference, y'all, between financial infidelity and then financial irresponsibility. Because sometimes, when you're a couple, especially when you're starting out, you can forget things. You can forget to tell your spouse something, but you're not intentionally trying to hide something. So that's irresponsibility. But when you're actually lying, like just straight lying about your finances or hiding things or hiding money or having money direct deposited into accounts that your spouse don't know about, or telling your spouse you don't get bonuses when you really do, and that direct deposit is going to an account you know nothing
Interesting.
about.
Interesting.
I'm
Okay.
just saying.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
That
Right.
is financial infidelity. And there
Okay.
are, according to this article on actually, is this Dave Ramsey's website? A little shade. Anyway.
Right. Y'all can check out get your financial education from the Financially Unhinged Family Podcast.
No, I like Dave Ramsey, but there are some things that I don't always agree with him, and that's fine. That is fine. There are multiple ways of doing things, right?
Indeed.
But this he has on point. So there are 6 signs of financial infidelity, and one, like I said, is hiding a purchase intentionally or hiding money intentionally. So that would be, and I used to work in retail part-time, and I would have so many wives come in and they're like, I'm not supposed to be buying this. I have to hide this from my house. Can you package that up real little so I can ease it into my purse? I remember
When
this
you work
one
in
lady.
retail?
Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes, retail, clothes. Or they would say, I remember this one lady came in, she was like, I'm not supposed to be shopping. We just bought a house.
Wait a minute. I hope her credit wasn't being considered.
No, they had
For the
closed
loan.
already. So
Oh,
I think they
gotcha.
were,
Okay.
their money was supposed to be going towards the new home,
Yeah,
and she
got
was
it.
in there shopping for
For
clothes.
herself.
So,
Gotcha. All right.
mhm.
Interesting.
Anything you want to add to that one, BJ, before we go on? Because we only have a
I
little
think we
bit of
need to.
time.
I think we need to go ahead and list those. That's the number one thing. You just concealing your purchases.
Okay. The other one is getting cash back without telling your spouse. Um, I can see how this can be an issue, especially when funds are tight and maybe you don't always have high balances. And if something is coming out the account, you make a purchase and you end up getting an extra $50 or whatever, that can add up if that's something you're doing on a regular basis. And it can make it hard. Like, for example, if one person is always balancing and they don't know something is coming out, it can make it hard to balance your checkbook or your budget, or if you don't have something allocated to a certain area and then all of a sudden it's gone, and it just can cause a domino effect.
Okay.
The next one is having secret accounts. Now, I have to say, I am guilty of this. Even
Now
when I was
there's
married, I did have
did you say
secret
secret
accounts.
account or separate account?
Secret.
I just want to clarify. I heard what you said. You said what you said, but I wanted to make sure the listening audience caught that it was a secret account, not a separate account. Secret.
I'm guilty of having secret accounts, but I have a lot of accounts some everywhere because I be hiding money from myself.
See, that don't even make no sense. And then when you get up in age, you don't even know what's out there. Then you forgot you had the account, and then it goes
But that's the
mistake.
point. I want to forget that I have the account, so in case something happens, it's like, oh yeah, because I have that account over there with some money in it.
Keyword. You said forget. You want to forget. Like the Lord is just gonna well, maybe he will. Just bring it to your remembrance.
Exactly. Yes.
We're gonna pray.
It's almost like, when you're going from summer to wintertime and you grab your jacket and you go in the pocket and it's like $20 in there.
That I like the metaphor. I get it, but that's a hope and wishing and a praying. I like to have some factual stuff, like we actual, faith without works. The works is what's important. Now, what else do we?
I put in the work to open that account
Now,
and put the money in there.
I hope you work to write it down with your financial plan, with your wealth plan, with a list of all your accounts and everything, so that if you just mysteriously forget, God forbid, if you are perpetual in that state of forgetfulness, your successor trustee know where these funds at.
Well,
I see what that means. You ain't did that, but okay, go ahead on. Go.
The next one is stashing bills. So basically stashing cash. Like, when you get
like in a safe, you like take it like the actual cash,
yes,
and you're putting it in okay, paper.
Now I know people who will, like, let's say I don't work and my husband gave me money every month, and I said, well, just in case I have to leave him, let me stash some cash. So let me take half of this allowance that I'm getting every month, and let me put this away. Gotcha. In case I have to leave, I have some cash, in case he start acting a fool.
And you hid your cash somewhere.
Yes.
Okay. No, I get you. I think I don't know if that's a Southern thing.
But let me stop saying women, because men do it too. Men have money too.
I was about to counter that, because I'm like, my grandfather used to stash cash, but he would hide stuff in like the most weird like locations. I'm like, he hid stuff like he was a slave. Like, no, I'm seriously. I know he was older. He was born like in the 1930s, but he would hide stuff in the toilet tissue roll. I remember one day I know, right? Went to the back bathroom where don't nobody go in. That is long gone back in the day. He would go, Christmas time, he would hand out, the money, come and get that little $100 bill from granddad. He gonna look out for you. When we was young, but he would have to go and get it. And he'd go in that back bathroom and pull the tissue thing off. And it's all inside the tissue holder, inside some toilet paper. I'm looking like, I'm glad that nobody come in here and just change the roll or what have you. But
I was gonna say, so no one knew it was
the bathroom
in there.
No, he would stuff in toolboxes. My granddad would hide, like, he literally, like, the Underground Savings Railroad was essentially what it was. Like, he would hide stuff in places, or as you call, stashing cash.
Interesting. I
Mhm.
stash. Shut up, Cece.
Exactly. All
Yeah,
right. So
just
go
be
ahead.
quiet.
Exactly. So what's the
Um.
next thing?
So the next, now I've seen people almost get divorced over this: opening secret credit cards and new accounts.
Mm. We laugh because because it's hit so close to home. We didn't even have a response for that one. And granted, I wasn't privy to the article beforehand, so this is
Hold on.
just
I think I want to read this one.
all right.
Sometimes people open a secret credit card or bank account to make it easier to hide their spending from their spouse. I've already said that kind of thing is off limits, but other times one spouse is desperately trying to hide a financial mess by transferring credit card balances or taking out loans to pay the bills, all without telling their spouse. The damage you're doing trying to fix the problem could be worse than the problem itself. If you're further in debt than you care to admit,
Mm.
then there's hope and it's time to come clean. So let me tell you something. I feel like in a marriage, when you're trying to hide something, it's always going to come to light. And not even just in a marriage. I think in any relationship where you're being deceitful,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to come to light. And in that case, if you're in debt, have debt, and like just come clean, just that's the time where you sit down and you come together with your partner and you're like, okay, this is the mess. And you come up with a plan together on how to get out of that. Not hiding money, hiding accounts, trying to take loans out to pay off debt, hoping they don't find out. They're going to find out.
Hide your wife, hide your kids, hide your money. So I get what you're saying. Is there an exception to the rule? So say for instance, one partner is financially irresponsible and you have the other partner who's like, look, I know the person that I'm with or married to, they have a tendency to like screw up the funds or are financially irresponsible. So therefore the other partner is forced to have a stash or secret account for the protection of the family, making sure that the family is okay. And I mean, I'm not to say that, it could be men and women who do that. And it just depends on the partner. Is that an exception to the rule where it's okay?
But I think the key is communication. Like if you talk and it's agreed, hey, you know what? I'm really not that great with money. I think you're better. You should handle it. Um, as long you know, as long as you sit down and have a conversation every month, maybe you pay bills together. Maybe you help the person um do better with their finances. I think you just have to communicate. That's important. Um, what else?
I agree, but I also see there is an opportunity for ego to step in, and how
You gotta
often
set
is
ego
it?
aside. I
Yeah, that's
mean,
easier said than done, but most
people
people are
have
gonna say,
strengths
"Hey,
and
I'm not the
weaknesses.
greatest with finances. Here it goes. You take care and do all the numbers because you're great." Although I believe in synergy, working together
Hmm.
and strength. We leveraging our strengths and weaknesses. It may not be my strength
But you should
in
still
numbers.
know what's going on in the household.
I agree. I don't disagree. But what I will say is that this has been a great conversation,
Yes.
unpacking this stuff and marriage laundering and financial infidelity and Fed now, which may make it a little more interesting down the road when we want to maneuver things around for situationships for those individuals that participate in that program.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so all right, ladies and gentlemen, so we shall
It's about
leave
that
that.
time.
Right, it's about that time. So with that being said, you know that you can reach us in those social media streets on Facebook and Instagram and on Twitter. And as always, you can take and check out our previous episodes by going to tlscradio.com, selecting the Financially Unhinged podcast fan page. There we go.
Mhm.
Thank you. The fan page. And you can listen to the previous seasons. And for this season, you can always go to your social media platform of preference by going to TLSC Radio and listening to the show. All right. Until
All right.
next episode.
Have a good night.
We out. Good night.
You're listening to Evening Jams and Podcasts on TLSCRadio.com, mobile and web.
You're listening to the Lounge Soul Cafe on TLSC Radio.
Monday through Friday, starting at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Streaming live on TLSCRadio.com. Mobile and web. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
You're listening to TLSC Radio. Keep it locked.
This is CC, the Financial Diva.
And I am BJ, the Minister of Finance, and we are the hosts of the Financially Unhinged podcast,
where we discuss all things money and help make your money make sense.
and listen for a unique perspective on topics that can help you with budgeting, investing, and money management.
You can check out CC, the Financial Diva, and BJ, the Minister of Finance, every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. That's every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern on the Lounge Soul Cafe radio station.
Tune into the DJ Control Straight to the Club Master Mix Show. Every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Enjoy Evening Jams and Podcasts Monday through Friday, starting at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Streaming live on TLSCRadio.com. Mobile and web. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Tune into the Morning Inspiration Show every day, starting at 6 a.m. Central Standard Time, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on TLSCRadio.com, mobile and web.
Can't get enough of CC, the Financial Diva, or PJ, the Minister of Finance? Go to TLSCRadio.com and check out their fan page where you can see all of their previous episodes. All of this on TLSC Radio. We play the jams.
Welcome to the TMI podcast, where we have something to say.
Hosted by the lovely, lively, and sexy. That's a lot, right?
Yeah, that's a lot.
I DJ Ice-T, along with her equally outspoken and sexy co-host, yours truly, Music.
So you just gonna give yourself a compliment, huh?
I just did. What's going on, DJ Ice-T?
Well, how are you today, Music? Everything is everything.
Everything is everything. We're back. We're back. One less, but doesn't mean that the quality and the content ain't gonna be on slam.
Well, I won't even say we're back. I'm going to say we are new and improved.
New and improved. We're embarking. We've embarked.
We've embarked on something that
A new journey.
we've talked about for several months,
Yep.
and the opportunity came, and so we decided to take our knife and fork and take a stab at it.
Leap of faith doing this thing. And tell us a little bit about the TMI podcast.
Well, what we're going to be doing is we're going to talk culture, politics, entertainment, relationship, just whatever we find that is in the headlines in the past or the future, coming up on the pike. And we're going to talk about it as only we can, and give you some of our thoughts, and we're going to ask that this become an interactive audience, and that you guys, let us know what you think, let us know your opinion about it. So, it's something new and fresh.
It is new and fresh. In fact, if you join us at the beginning of the show, we have a totally new intro and jingle. What do you think of that?
I love it. I love it. I love his voice, and I love what he says. So, yeah, we vetted a few people, but he's the one that stuck out. So I really like that one.
Yeah, wonderful jingle that really just summarizes what you can expect, as DJ Ice-T mentioned from the TMI podcast. Now, so if you're expecting this to be more of what we did before with music, playing all the, and critiquing music, this ain't that kind of podcast. So, but we think you're going to enjoy this thing.
Yes, we absolutely do. And we pray that you do.
Yes.
It's something we've put our heart and soul into. So we're without further ado, let's get into our hot topic.
Well, before we do that, I want to make sure that they know that they can where they can catch us, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So for now, the we're really excited is that you can listen to the TMI podcast live from the radio, but also we're streaming live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So you can listen. I know, right? Isn't that exciting? So 3 different ways to interact with us. And each one of those, you can actually text us while the show was going on. So before we had that one website where you can go to and text. Now, any one of those platforms, you can text and be interactive, and we can respond to you. So we're really excited about that. And then in terms of our social media, you can reach us at TMI Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, as well as Instagram. And it's spelled TEEMAYEPODCAST. TMI Podcast.
Like
TMI.
TMI. Not like your eye that you see out of it. But
not like too much information, because we're going to give you a lot.
Yeah, it won't be too much. We're going to give you just the right amount.
Yeah. So anyway, you said what now? What do you want to do?
So today's hot topic
No.
What
I
want to do now?
We'll be right back.
Oh.
We got to do some station break stuff, man.
We had to pay the people.
You know what? You could give people a script and then they still going to go do their own thing.
We're going to pay the people. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
With more TMI podcast here on the TLSC Radio Network.
You're listening to the TMI podcast, hosted by DJ Ice-T and music. And be sure to like, friend, and share the TMI podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Or contact us at TMIpodcast@gmail.com. That's TEEEMAYE podcast@gmail.com.
You're tuned into Wealth and Wellness Wednesday on TLSC Radio.
It's time for Hot Topics with DJ Ice-T and music on the TMI podcast.
And we have returned. Yes, because everybody says we're back. No, we have returned.
We have returned.
So our hot topic today is something that
you know what? You got to do better than that. Dude, you just going to go into hot topic. I know we had that wonderful jingle, but can we get some DJ Ice-T's panaz in that? Can we do that again? I'm sorry.
And have returned.
No, that part was cool, but
okay.
how you just said hot topic. Come get into it. Get into hot topic, man. It's a hot topic.
So here is the hot topic. So
okay, I'm gonna give you a break because this is our first episode, and I know you coming from other responsibilities, but you gotta put some energy in the next time, man.
Okay. So, so our hot topic of the day is now
the
is
day.
that
Of this episode.
of this episode
Yep.
is something that I just found adorable. It is the March cover of British Vogue magazine with Rihanna and ASP Rocky
Yep.
on there, and
ASAP.
ASAP, is that it? ASAP,
ASAP Rocky.
ASAP Rocky. As soon as possible, Rocky, because he getting it as soon as possible. But what we saw on the cover, if you haven't had a chance to see it, beautiful cover.
Yes.
They are Rihanna. It's the storyline is about Rihanna.
Yes.
But she had ASAP Rocky and he was holding the baby, and she was in front of him, and she was holding his hand, and he's holding the baby, and he's kissing the baby. Lovely picture.
Yes, it is.
I thought it was beautiful. I thought it showed a lot of depth of their relationship, and I thought it showed just, she's like, I'm a boss, but I still have my family, and my family, my man, my son, they're behind me, and not behind me in the fact that I'm the billionaire, but I just felt like she was, just wanting to showcase her family. And so there's been a lot of discord regarding that because, people are saying that she's not letting him lead and, all these other negative connotations.
Just from the picture.
And that's not what I saw. I just saw a beautiful black family out on the beach enjoying the day. I mean, she's dripping in black, this beautiful black gown. He has on a black vest with dripping in diamonds, and the baby is in some sort of black diaper, and they just look happy. They just look amazing. So I didn't understand. I think I'm coming to learn that people just have to be unhappy. Miserable people want to be miserable, and they want everyone else in the world to be miserable along with them.
Now you nailed it. I first of all, kudos to all the women for this is March is International Women's History Month.
Right.
So kudos to all the beautiful women of all colors and the contributions that you do. Speaking of which, before I respond to the Rihanna thing, I do want to bring attention to wonderful job, DJ Ice-T, with the story of Black History, the Black History Month top story on the TLSC radio website. The theme this year is women who tell stories.
Yes.
And you put together that spread for TLSC radio. So if you hadn't had a chance to get out there and take a look at it, please do so. It is wonderful. She did a great job. She highlighted 4 wonderful storytellers in variety of different genres, right? So you highlighted Toni Morrison.
Yes, I love Toni Morrison.
J. California Cooper.
My favorite author.
I love her.
I love her.
I love her. You also went back in time and you did a reporter, an investigative reporter. I forgot her name. It's at the tip of my tongue. Anyways, and then also there was one other person. But anyway, that's more of a reason for you guys to go out, check out the website. Women's History Month 2023, brought to you by DJ Ice-T. So anyway, I wanted to get that out because I want to make sure you get your flowers because that was really a wonderful
appreciate
spread.
That. Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. Now back to Rihanna and how this ties. First of all, the reason why they have her on the cover and ASAP in the back, just for all you naysayers, is because they're recognizing and celebrating Women's History Month. Okay, now international. It ain't just an American thing; it's international. That's why kudos to the UK Vogue version of the Vogue and how they highlighted her. That's number one.
Number one.
Yep. And so then number 2, and I talked to the fellas when we were smoking cigars this past week. We all talked about that, and I said what it represents is that this is a brother who is not afraid to put his girl up front
That's right.
Deservingly so.
Go ahead.
And still be a man by holding the baby. See, that's the part people don't see. He's showing his manhood by saying, guess what? I'm going to support my baby. At the same time, I'm going to support my baby. Now, you may not have got that. Let me try that one more time.
One more again.
I'm going to support my baby, Rihanna, by lifting her up, by letting her take the main stage, by highlighting her. But at the same time, I'm going to show my responsibilities as a father by lifting up my other baby, by holding that person in my hand.
Isn't that beautiful?
What? Come on now.
And for anyone that saw anything else, you need
Shame on you.
You need to check yourself. You need
Check
to check
yourself.
you need to check your